Hi guys, this is Gnimsh and welcome to the Dreamhack Austin top decklists overview. So I'm going to talk about the best decklists. I've got them from the admins and I have them right here. But just to give you a perspective, the winner of Dreamhack Austin is Chakki from Team Dignitas, and we had 8 different decklists in the top 8. Absolutely 8 different decklists. Some classes are being shared because we have Warlock played by Chakki and by TerrenceM, who was the second place. But they are totally different decks, and there was a lot of good decks. So obviously after the expansion release and after rotation, you are definitely interested what those guys played and how did they go through the 9 rounds of Swiss and then top 16, because yes, they played for 3 days. First, they had to go through 9 rounds of Swiss, which means like they had to play around a really difficult field and just win as many games as possible, and then top 16 and defeat their opponents. Best of 5, last hero standing. So it's not exactly ladder format, but I believe those decks are really good on ladder as well. Because, well, even though there was a ban and a lot of players wanted to ban Shaman, Chakki specifically, who is the winner of the tournament, he wanted to face Shaman, he wanted to smash Shaman's face, and he actually was able to do it. So let's jump into the decklist and see what do we have here. Starting with Chakki Priest. So if you're looking for a good priest build, this is one. This is a really nice build. So Chakki here is playing a control priest, as you can see. So quickly, this is not surprising. I will mostly try to talk about the cards that are a bit different. And Chakki, when I'm looking at his list, the card that is almost in every list is Doomsayer. Doomsayer, here you can see one as well. It's a really good card now, specifically versus Shaman, to be able to counter the early game. And other than that, he's playing Pyromancers, Alkaline Sword Priest, Flash Heal, and Circle of Healing. So the combo of the Alkaline Sword Priest to be able to deal with the board. And other than that, Shifting Shade. So as you can see, he's not running Alchemist, the new Darkshire Alchemist, which is actually a very popular card as well. He's going for the Shifting Shades instead to be able to draw the cards and just using the standard options. And Nizov as well, but this deck is not really that Defraudal heavy. So we see those Shifting Shades for Nizov, we see Sylvanas, and other than that, well, something from Museum Curator, and we've seen Chakki getting Abominations from it, so there's a couple of the good Defraudal cards you can actually pick up. He's not running Kern, so a very interesting list. Excavated Evil has replaced Holy Novas most of the time, and remember, Priest actually lost a lot of cards in rotation because there is no Valence Chosen, and there is no Light Bomb, and no Death Lord, so a lot of cards that were used previously are not available right now. But Entomb, still great, Justic or True Heart. So, well, enough about Priest, because I'm not a specialist in Priest yet. I will be in some time, but this is a very good list, and it worked for Chakki. Let's see another list from Chakki. It's his Warrior. This Warrior is a Contra Warrior, as you can see. And, well, again, double Doomsayer. We had one Doomsayer in the Priest deck. This time it's one. He's not running Blood to Ecor in his list. He's running one Revenge instead of Whirlwinds. So, also an interesting choice. Is there anything else that is really different here? Bloodhoof Brave seems like a card that's actually in most of the Warrior decks now. A very solid card is a taunt. It replaced Slash Belcher in most of the lists. It can be also very aggressive if you enrage it, because, you know, if you deal damage to it, it actually gets +3 attack, and it's super easy to use Revenge to slam your own Bloodhoof Brave, well, which is not happening very often, but it's just a great card overall. Harrison Jones, also like a card to be able to deal with the weapons. Rogue is very popular, Warrior is super popular, and then we have Shamans running Doomhammer, so Harrison Jones works really well. A very streamlined list, let's say. There is nothing really standing off in here, not a greedy list, just trying to be as precise as possible with those Doomsayers. And Elise Starseeker, I feel like this card is really a must in most of Contra decks right now, because you go to Fatigue versus Nizov decks, versus Cthulhu decks, and you want to have Elise Starseeker to be able to win Contra Warrior mirrors as well. And we've seen a lot of Contra mirrors and in the tournament, because Warrior is also very popular, and Elise is definitely a card that you need in your deck. Alright, that's Contra Warrior from Chakki. And then we have his Paladin. I think Paladin was the most interesting list out of the Chakki's list, because he did tweak a lot of cards. So Paladin list is an Nizov list, as you can see, and Control, you want to survive, you want to deal with the early pressure, and then play your big Defraudal cards and play Nizov to be able to just play them again. So what is different about this list? Humility times 2, and a lot of people play only one. Chakki decided to play 2 of them, and then he plays double Stampeding Kodo. So Stampeding Kodo combination with Humility and Aldor Peacekeeper works really, really well because it's a removal card, and Stampeding Kodo itself is also really good, like to be able to deal with the opposing Doomsayer. I've even seen RDU today tweeting that Doomsayer is a possible problem in the current metagame because almost everyone is playing it now. So that's a big card and a great removal for the Doomsayers. What else? So, double Pyromancer, 1 Acolyte of Pain, where some people still play 2, and a Spellbreaker. The card was really good in the tournament as far as I've seen, because Silence is not being played that often right now. So a lot of people brought Cairn, Sylvanas, and all those cards that are really good when they are not silenced. And then 1 Spellbreaker was actually working really well for Chakki there. Drastic or True Heart. So this is a card we haven't seen often in the N'Zoth Paladin. It's really popular in Warrior, it's popular in Priest, but for N'Zoth Paladin, it's something of a novelty, and it works so well for Chakki. It was just incredibly good versus Warriors in those control matchups when you just generate so much pressure on board with just hero power and bringing 2 dudes. So Drastic or True Heart is a great card in a N'Zoth Paladin list, and I definitely recommend trying it in yours. Adric the Pure, first introduced by Tides of Time because he was first on stream, but Chakki obviously had it in his deck, and I was able to play with Adric the Pure as well in my N'Zoth Paladin, and it's really good. It's another big threat that you put on board, and you just deal with the stealth minions. Like the Rogue puts big ad when you just reduce the attack, or whenever you lose board control, which is rarely, but you have like, it's another kind of equality consecration, because you don't care if your opponent has like 5 minions with 1 attack. It's like you can heal back with Forbidden Healing. So Adric the Pure really fits the curve, and double Ragnaros, both of them are really good. Ragnaros the Firelord actually kind of put Chakki ahead in some matchups that were really difficult versus Miracle Rogue, for example. Was able to hit the Gadget Sons and do a lot of damage. Where Ragnaros the Light Lord, I think it was just, it's so good. It can attack. This is the first thing you have to think about it. Like, you play it, you get 8 health, and then it actually can attack, and if it survives, it's a big problem for a lot of decks. So Ragnaros the Light Lord was great, and N'Zoth, obviously, to bring some of those cards back. He's not playing Twilight Summoners, he's not playing Infested Tauren. He doesn't need them. He just doesn't need those cards, and he has enough pressure. N'Zoth, if he brings Tyrion, Sylvanas, Cairn, or like even 2 of them, it's still a very solid card. So that's the Paladin from Chakki, and the last deck that actually won him the final duel versus TerrenceM in the final is the Zoo deck. So what is Chakki bringing in a Zoo deck? Like, a lot of people are looking at the Darkshire Councilman being one of the top cards that got introduced in the new set, and Forbidden Ritual to go along with it to be able to buff the attack, and obviously those cards are in, but the big surprise of the tournament is Crazed Alchemist. It's, well, I can't even say it's back. It's like, it's brought to the Zoo decks, and it was played by Chakki, by JJ, but by a lot of people, by Tiddler Celestial, one of the best Zoo players as well. They realized this card just fits so well in the new Zoo. So it kind of replaces Owl, the Iron Beak Owl, because it's a removal card. Like, when they play Doomsayer, you just play Crazed Alchemist, swap the stats, Doomsayer dies, Manatite Totem dies, Flametongue Totem dies. So it's a really good removal card, but we've seen JJ actually win with the Crazed Alchemist because he was able to play Councilman, then swap the stats of Councilman. Councilman was like 2-5, he swaps the stats to a 5-2, and then it's getting buffed because he plays minions, and suddenly Councilman has 7 attack, goes for face, and wins the game. So you can play 1 or 2. Chakki decided to play 1. JJ played 2. I don't know about Tiddler, but this is a card to definitely to watch. But the special thing about Chakki's Zoo is Leroy Jenkins and Soulfire for extra burst. So he has a lot of burst and, well, not burn, but burst specifically to be able to deal this final damage, to put his opponent on 10, and when people think like, hey, Zoo is not able to deal that much damage, just slams Leroy, goes Soulfire face, and is able to win the game. So a very interesting build of Zoo, with New Pauses Villager being a great card as well, having synergy with Knife Juggler and Direwolf Alpha and Councilman as well. What else? Crazed Alchemist, we talked about it. Gormok, another card that actually works. So no Doomguards in this list. Doomguard is definitely playable as well. Like, I've seen a lot of lists with Doomguard and Sea Giant as well to be able to have this end game. But I think this is a bit more stable with the Gormok and Sea Giant Leroy finisher. Like, this is not going to discard Sea Giant So I really like this list, and it actually was able to win Chakki the whole tournament in the end because he faced Reno Lock. So those are the lists from Chakki, the winner. But obviously TerrenceM had a really good run. He was able to go 8-1 in the Swiss portion of the tournament, and he ended up in the final. It was just Warlock versus Warlock, so one step away. He was really close to taking the championship himself. So let's talk about his decks. So first, we have Terrence Rogue, and thinking about Terrence, he had Leroy and Faceless in a couple of his decks, so he was a bit more aggressive. So if you were looking for a good Miracle Rogue list, this is one. And this basically curves out 2 gadgets and auctioneer. But let's talk about the cards overall. So what Terrence does, he's playing Leroy, Faceless, Conceal, Cold Blood, so a very aggressive version where you want to push the damage and then you have the finisher with the Leroy Cold Blood, or you just Cold Blood something on your board, you conceal it, and then you go through. He's playing only 1 conceal. Double conceal is still questionable. A lot of players I thought struggled with double conceal because their draws were not really that good, and we've even seen it in top 8, I believe, where one player just drew all the spells and wasn't able to do much with the conceal. Like sometimes conceal wins you games when you just go in, you conceal, and then you go in again, there is no removal from your opponent. But I think 1 conceal is a bit more safe. He's playing 1 Deadly Poison, 1 Journey Below. Journey Below enables you to get some extra cards. This is another card that you can play for 1, and it works with Gadgetson. So a very interesting one. You can maybe even get Zariel, a second copy of Zariel, to be able to get a couple of more toxins. Southsea Deckhand, another card with charge that you might need with the Cold Blood, and obviously Deckhand, Cold Blood, then Faceless. It works as well, so you can do that and then be more aggressive. So it gives extra punch to the Miracle Rogue, and I like it, definitely. 1 Shiv, 1 Shadow Strike, some people play 2, Terrence decided to play only 1 because he's going more aggressive routes, and then 1 Farseer as well to be able to heal. 1 Tomb Pillager, that's something I haven't seen before. Most of the people, they play 2 because they respect the Pillager so much, they want the coin back. Terrence was able to cut 1, and this Rogue worked really well for him. So other than that, the list is pretty much standard, but a very interesting one, and I definitely recommend you to try it yourself. Then the next deck from Terrence is his Warlock deck, and I think this was the most prominent deck that he brought because mostly in his lineup Shaman and Rogue were banned, so he was able to show his skills with this Reno Warlock, which I call Reno Jenkins, because there is Leroy Jenkins and Reno Jackson. So 1 Forbidden Ritual, Mortal Coil. I will not read all the cards, but let's talk about the specific ones. Doomsayer has been, I think, a staple now in the Reno decks because it works so well with so many cards. When you are able to like just Twisting Nether on 8, play a Doomsayer, be able to buy your some more time, or just early game versus Shamans. Shadow Bolt replacing Dark Bomb because Dark Bomb rotated out, so a very good card choice as well. Refreshment Vendor, Senjin, so mostly standard, a lot of interesting cards overall, but yep, this is his Reno list. Alex Straza might be a bit surprising, but overall it worked really well. So he has a lot of sustainability, he still has a lot of AoE, Stamping Code of Black Knight to be able to deal with the mid-game cards from your opponents. Mostly realize that not only you have to protect yourself from aggro, but there's a lot of control decks that you will have to fight against, and I think this deck actually works really well overall to play versus control decks as well. And Alex Straza to limit the health of your opponent, to be able to burst them out with the combo, which is Leroy, Power Overwhelming, and Faceless, and you obviously need to reduce the cost of those cards with Thorison at some point, or just like a couple to be able to burst them down. So that's the Reno Warlock, Reno Jackson, Reno Jenkins build from Terrence. And let's see what he had. What else did he have? So he had a warrior as well. And this warrior is not a control warrior, it's a patron warrior. And this is one of the, again, most streamlined builds from Patron. So he is running 1 Pyromancer, Blood to Ichor, a new card that works really well, especially with Fire Warlocks to be able to kill those pesky Totem Golems. Slam, Armorsmith, Acolyte. So the list seems to be really streamlined, yeah, like double Ravaging Ghoul, Bloodhoof Brave also working really well, Corcoran Elite to be able to have that final punch and patrons. So this is a list where you can, well, you basically go for patrons and try to build up a board, deal damage, and finish your opponent with Grom Hellscream. Like either with the patron board, or just put them low enough to be able to finish them with Grom Hellscream, and this is just fine. Like I have nothing else to say. Like Pyromancer is a new addition to the patron lists. You can play 1 or 2, like depends. But I think Pyromancer works really well to be able to clear the opposing board, draw some cards with Acolyte of Pain, get some extra patrons. So yeah, it just works. I like it. I played this list a bit, and it's a really fun list to play. Then the last deck for Terrence is Shaman. So a lot of people dislike this deck, but this is obviously one of the strongest aggro decks at the moment, and people still struggle to build the best list, right? This is the list that Terrence was able to play and piloted to the final of the Dreamhack Austin, where we had 175 players, so a great feat. And looking at this list, I think this is probably one of the most streamlined lists at the moment. So what do you expect and what do you have? You have double Argent Squire, so obviously Leper Gnome is out because it got nerfed and you don't want to play it. Argent Squire works really well. Finley still to get like a steady shot or life top to be able to use a different hero power, because the Shaman hero power doesn't really support this kind of deck. Eternal Sentinel instead of Lava Shock. Lava Shock was really cool to get rid of the mana crystals, and I've seen some aggro decks still play it because they feel like, hey, this is burst damage, I can use it. But many times I've found that Eternal Sentinel is much better because you get rid of the overload and you also put a minion on board, which is great, a free 2 to just deal a bit more damage. And sometimes when both decks run out of cards because, hey, you just play your cards, right, and your opponent tries to respond to what you do, you run out of cards, it's much better to get Eternal Sentinel from the top as a free 2 instead of just Lava Shock to not do anything. Flame Jugglers, pretty much a standard. Flametongue Totem is something that you maybe didn't expect before from the aggressive Shaman, but now you really have to think about it. They mostly play 1, and it works with Argent Squire specifically on turn 1. Flametongue Totem can actually deal a lot of damage as well. Forest Spirit, Lava Burst, this is standard. Double Faceless, Flame Reefed Faceless, a great card, 7/7 for 4 mana. It buffs Tunneled Shrug as well. And obviously Doomhammers to be able to finish you with double Rockbiter Doomhammer. So a very good list, very fast, very efficient. And if you're looking for that list, hey, you can take it, right? You can test it. People might hate on you, but it actually works. It's a pretty good one. So those were the lists of the finalists, but obviously we had a top 8, top 16, and I want to talk about it as well. I have 3 specific lists that really were in the top 8 as well and were popular. So first, Odemian Warrior. Odemian Warrior is a tempo warrior. I don't know why we are calling it tempo. It should be called mid-range, but hey, what can I do, right? You can play on tempo even though you have Varian Rin. So this list was also super popular in the top 16. It was played by Sixo. It was played by, well, Odemian, by the French player basically. So Odemian and Vince, they both made it to top 16 with that list. Sixo as well, and I believe Orange played this list, and Zalay as well. So a lot of great players decided to play this list, and they made it to top 16 out of 9 rounds of Swiss. This list, I don't know who exactly created it first. Before the rotation, Stan Udachi was one of the creators of this kind of list. And after rotation, I think Board Control and Cypher were able to pilot it to a very top high legend finish. So let's talk about it. What is this list? This is really similar to Payton in a way, but you don't have the Payton combo-ish aspect. You mostly have just minions that are very strong mid-game, and you want to have a very strong minion play every turn. You still have Floating Berserker that can just grow and do a lot of damage, but you just follow up with tempo, kind of tempo cards, let's say, with Arathi Weaponsmith and a weapon to be able to deal with the board and push damage. It runs Malkorok. I think it's a very standard card right now, and if you're thinking if Malkorok is good, it is. It is a 7 mana 6/5, and most of the time you get a weapon that's decent, like a free 2/5 War Axe, or well, Perdition's Blade is, let's say, a bad weapon that you can get, but there's a lot of great weapons like Hammer of Twilight, a 4/2 weapon that gives you an elemental. There is obviously the best ones are Gorehole or Gladiator's Longbow, so a lot of great weapons. There is one Jinx weapon, which is Cursed Blade, and we even see it on the screen right here. Double all damage dealt to your hero. Yes, you can get that, unfortunately. It's kind of like a Doomsayer from Piloted Shredder, but most of the weapons are actually pretty good, and you definitely want to play Malkorok in your list. Then you have Varian, Ragnaros, so a lot of cards that basically are troublesome for your opponent to deal with, and you push and in those mid-rangey creatures, in the end, you win, you overpower them with your board. So this list is very powerful. I also recommend trying it, especially if you're not a very patron person, or if you don't want to play Contra Warrior, but you still wanted to play Warrior in a more like a Druid way, because it feels sometimes like you're playing a Druid deck. Okay, so that's the list. That's the Tempo Warrior list. Another list that was kind of behind the stage, it's kind of behind the scenes. We haven't seen it. It got banned when Orange was playing. It's the Orange Druid, and ta-da! It's a Beast Druid. He actually made it to top 16 with the Beast Druid, so I was super sad when he got eliminated, because we haven't seen much of it, or at least like I haven't seen it being streamed. So this list is a Beast Druid. He's playing double Forbidden Ancient, a card that I personally really like, and I want to see it more because I feel it's really good. Like, it fits the curve. You play it on turn 7, it's a 7/7. You top deck it when there's turn 10, you play it as a 10/10, and people will have problem dealing with it because of the lack of silence. And you will have to use your removal on other cards. This is very aggressive. So it uses kind of the cards that we've seen in the Token Druid before. Violet Teacher, Innervate into Power of the Wild, creates a really nice board because you get the tokens, they get buffed. It uses Fandral Staghelm, one of my favorite legendary cards overall from the set, because Fandral has so many synergies here. Imagine Fandral, let's go from the top. Fandral Living Roots, deals 2 damage, summons 2 1/1s. Fandral Power of the Wild creates a 4/3 Panther and buffs the board. Then you have Druid of the Saber with Fandral, which is a 3/2 stealth with charge. So you can charge if you want, or you can keep it stealth if you want, like whatever you do. Druid of the Flame being a 5/5. Then you have Druid of the Claw being a 4/6 taunt. So a really interesting list with a lot of synergies, and it just wants to go face, take care of the board and go face. And some of the interactions I really like here is Druid of the Saber, for example. You coin it on turn 1 as a 3/2 beast, and then turn 2 you play Mark of Yashar, you draw a card, you have a 5/4, you go face for 5, so you can be really aggressive with this list, and it's very interesting, definitely. Current probably have some board presence. I've seen some other lists as well. For example, there is this mystical Tars Summoning Stone list that I'm going to feature in the next episode, so definitely look forward for that. But it's kind of similar but different in a way, so that list also exists, and the aggressive Druid is alive, and it is live, is definitely an interesting one. Okay, and the last list for today is Payton Mage. So Mage was available in the top 16, and it was Payton and Frozen who were playing the list. They had some similarities. So overall, what we are looking at is a Reno Jackson Freeze Mage. So with a Reno Jackson Freeze Mage, you do not go toolbox, you do not go with a list that has only 1 copy of each card. You have a couple of copies because you have so much draw. So Payton decided to go with the following setup. So what he's playing double Doomsayer, double Loot Hoarder, double Novice Engineer, and 1 Ice Barrier, double Ice Block, then Cold Light Oracle, Con of Cold, Blizzard, Torison, Flamestar Alexstrasza, and Pyroblast. So to contradict kind of this list, Frozen was playing only 1 Hoarder, 1 Novice Engineer, and Frozen was also playing, I think he was playing double Blizzard, he was playing only 1 Fireball, so there are still some differences in the lists, there are some tweaks you can make. I think both players agreed that you need double Icelands, double Frostbolt, you need double Doomsayer, double Arcane Intellect, double Frost Nova, double Ice Block. Those cards, they both had as doubles, and the other doubles were just based on the decision of what you really want from the list. There was also like Malygos instead of Pyroblast for Frozen. So there are some differences. You can still build this Freeze Mage a bit differently, but if you're looking for a Freeze Mage list, this is one that was performing pretty well. Payton actually finished in the top 4 of the tournament, so I think he actually whiffed in the end with this specific list, because it might be a bit unstable, maybe you can still improve it, but if you were looking for a solid start, this is the Freeze Mage list you can take and try on ladder. Even though it might be hard because of so many warriors, and I believe Payton was actually banning a lot of warriors, so on your own risk. But overall, this list is pretty cool, you can also play it. And that will be it for today. So basically, a lot of great lists from Dreamhack Austin, and I want to give a shout out to JJ, and also turn your attention to the card, which is Arch Thief Rafam, because JJ, let's get the card still really quickly. So Arch Thief Rafam, Battlecry, discover a powerful artifact. JJ was actually playing it in his Control Warrior, and it performed really well. You can get an army of the undead, so you have a lot of zombies. For 10 mana, you get like full board of free zombies, which is really hard to deal with for many decks. So he was playing Arch Thief Rafam as the win condition, and as I mentioned, like Crazed Alchemist also being in many zoo decks. as one of the standard cards you really want to play. And that will be it. So Dreamhack Austin, you can probably find the VODs on their channel, or they will upload it on the YouTube. But we had a really good tournament, and I think it was a great start. The metagame is excellent. I love it, and there will be a lot of tournaments in the future. I will be casting Star Ladder actually tomorrow and on Friday and Monday, Tuesday, I believe. So if you want to see the new metagame and the new format, definitely check this out. And that will be it for today. So thank you so much for watching. This is Gnimsh, and see you guys in the next video.